Right, thank you very much for that. Well, good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Development Management Review Committee. Item 1, any apologies or substitutions?
No apologies, convener.
Item 2, any declarations of interest? Councillor McLaren?
Yes, this is not a declaration, just a statement on item 5, report 289/21. I've recently been appointed to this committee and I was not involved with the site visit. I therefore will leave the meeting during this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, but there would be no requirement for you to actually leave the meeting. You could stay on to, but it's solely up to yourself. Thank you.
No, I'll just leave the meeting. Thank you.
Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Right. Item 4, 2 to 4, the Roods Kirriemuir. This is an application for the review of the discussion taken by the Planning Authority in respect of the refusal of planning permissions for the change of use from public bar to two-bedroom ground floor flats at the Ogilvy Arms Bar, 2 to 4, Roods Kirriemuir. Is the applicant or agent present? Don't see any.
They're not today, convener, no.
Right. As per the decision of the committee, an unaccompanied site visit was held. Do members require any further information to enable them to determine this appeal? If no, the information is required, then we can proceed to determine. Councillor Moore, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, convener. Yes, I did inquire on the site visit whether we could get an accurate plan of or confirmation of what the application site was and what was the property in control of the applicant.
Yes. Right, Councillor Duff, your comments?
Convener, I wonder if Mr. Christensen wants to come in. Have we lost? Oh, he is there.
No, we obviously have the red line area. I don't know whether we can share that with members. The applicant, the applications. I think the application site is shown in red.
Yes, I've got that plan on page 19 of the papers, but when we were on the site, it was unclear from comments made whether that was whether they own the alleyway or whether they stopped at the edge of the wall and gate.
I think what we discussed out on site, Councillor Moore, was that I think the ownership is unclear, and I think that is reflected in the response by Environmental Health.
That's why I was asking for a clarification of application and control.
I think the application site is denoted in red, but I think the ownership is unclear.
Right, thank you.
Right, Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener.
Sorry to interrupt, convener. Can I just clarify before we move on, and that if there's any requirement for further information prior to taking members' comments, please?
Convener, it
Yes.
is well known that you can apply for planning permission over ground that you do not own.
Yes.
The application plan quite clearly shows that the applicant considers that this ground is part of his application. So therefore we don't need any further clarification. We can deal with it on the basis that he says that he controls that ground.
That's quite right, Councillor King.
On the other hand, the drawings that were submitted originally do not show that extra ground, it only shows the building.
We've got the red line showing that area. I suggest we proceed on that basis.
I think we should proceed. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener. When I read this application originally, I was quite sympathetic towards it. I'm conscious that our policies make it very difficult to convert a ground floor business premises into a house, and that seems to be almost a red line. So I certainly went to the site with an open mind to have the site visit. However, I'm very cognizant of the objections from environmental health. We had a look round the back of the premises, and frankly, that was, I think, in the common vernacular, a bit of a tip. And I would be very unhappy about. I'm quite happy with the officer's decision. I think it's the right decision. We can debate the first reason for objection, but I think the general mess at the back of the premises would not, I think, be sensible to convert that into a couple of houses. I think that would just be throwing petrol on a fire, so to speak. So I would accept the officer's recommendation to refuse there.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor King, your opinion?
I agree entirely with the officers. This is a totally unacceptable area to build 2 flats in. There are other alternatives that the applicant has, including converting into other commercial property. The question of the area at the back and environmental health complaints, I accept that ownership may not be clear, but the applicant has indicated that the ground is under his control, and I would suggest that environmental health should now start using that to apply pressure on the applicant, because the situation in that alleyway is absolutely disgraceful. I mean, how anybody can be expected to live under those conditions in the 21st century. And we did see a family coming down from a top 4 flat into that area to access their car. I think it's totally unacceptable, and I feel that the officers have got this 100% right.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Councillor McLaren.
Yes, I agree with officers in this situation. It's contrary to policy TC 18, which does not allow residential use of ground floor premises. But the main concern is policy TC 12 requires the provision of satisfactory residential environment, and I don't envisage this to be the case, given the proximity at the rear of the property, the bins and the windows in the public house. I therefore would be refusing this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would, again, officers on this occasion, and we can put it to a vote if it's required. Councillor King, obviously.
I move that we reject the application.
I'm not sure if Councillor Moore has any comments, convener.
Councillor Moore?
Yeah, like Councillor Duff, I was sympathetic from the papers. If the red line went round the enclosed area and did not include the alley, then I think there would be more of a case for agreeing it. As the applicant has claimed that the alley is theirs, I agree with Councillor King. We should be starting enforcement action, but I think that enforcement action should be for the whole alley, not just the bit that the applicant's claiming. Because I would certainly refuse this.
Councillor Duff, you're muted.
Sorry, convener. Yeah, I completely agree with the officers here. I think we should refuse this application and dismiss the appeal.
And Councillor McLaren?
Yes, I agree entirely.
That's unanimous decision. It has been refused as per officer's decision. So that's.
Convener, could I just clarify for the minute that the reasons for dismissing the appeal are the same as those contained within the handling report?
Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah. Right. Move on to item 5. Land north of Piper Dam Drive, Piper Dam, Powellis. Is the applicant and agent present? Yes, I can see them. Members, further to our meeting held on the 22nd of June when we requested further written information from the applicant, you have the response detailed within the report. The committee is now invited to determine the appeal unless we require further information. If no further information is required, we can proceed to determine. Is there any further information required?
No.
No.
Councillor Duff, are you requiring further information?
Well, I'd like clarification from the planning officer that the two issues that were raised at our previous meeting, which was the protected species survey and the issue about, which I think Councillor King asked a question about removal of trees, if these two issues have now been clarified to the satisfaction of the planning officers. I mean, I know we got an email from Mr. Taylor in planning, but it would be good to hear that from the planning officer here today.
Is the planning officer?
Yeah, yes, I can confirm, Councillor Duff, that obviously the additional information was submitted by the applicant, and it was sent to the planning service and also to Nature Scott in relation to the bat survey. And I can confirm that the planning service are content with the report findings, and have indicated that the planning conditions could be used to ensure that the mitigation measures that are set out in the report are carried out.
Thank you very much for that. We have received the protected species survey, and there's no issues, and the recommendations that works can be carried out with due care and attention as per recommendations of the report for the protected species. In the original papers, the application has failed on policies DS1, DS3, DS4, DS5, TC1, TC2, TC3, PV2, PV5, PV7, PV8, PV15 and PV20. I have to agree with the applicant's reply in the policies to the policies and find them not contrary to the application. I am a strong supporter of rural businesses, and I think this is an excellent project. Jobs and tourism would benefit from this development in a much needed area. I would uphold this appeal. Comments, Councillor Moore?
Yes, I'm afraid I disagree with you, convener. We declared the climate emergency. Remember that. This is land that has been cleared and supposed to be replanted. This is land where 22 mature trees will have to be felled, and we'll get 66 in exchange. But how many years will it be before those 66 are anywhere near as mature as the 22 trees? Losing them like that is not acceptable. I think the officer has got it right, and I will support dismissing the appeal.
Thank you very much. Councillor King?
Thank you, convener. I totally disagree with Councillor Moore. The area of ground we are looking at was a crop woodland, which has been felled in accordance with a felling licence, as you expect when trees are grown as a crop. We were concerned that a protected species survey had not been done because the officers had already made up their minds that they were going to refuse this. They didn't ask for it. We asked for it, and we found there was no good reason not to proceed. I feel that this site, while it has been trees in the past, could usefully be turned into a commercial activity, supporting tourism and various other aspects of life in the countryside. There is absolutely no reason why an area of trees similar to what has been felled could not be planted elsewhere. There is no requirement for the trees to be replanted exactly where the trees were grown before. The loss of mature trees to widen the road is regrettable. But unfortunately, that's one of the penalties we have with modern road systems, where we have to make areas for turnings and slip roads. We're getting 3 times the number of trees back that we're actually cutting down. And depending on what those trees are, some trees have fairly speedy growth rates and could grow quite quickly. I'm thinking particularly of things like eucalyptus, which are not native, but do have a very good and fast growth rate. I personally think that the officers were overactive in this one, that a commercial look at the sort of things that are going elsewhere in the country with these type of food outlets could have perhaps given a better lead. And I agree with you that I think that this appeal should be upheld and the proposals allowed to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, convener. I'll give you some initial remarks, and then I think I'm quite happy to go down the list of objections raised by planning and give you my response to those. So I'd start by saying that our development plan was approved in 2016, which was quite some time ago. It was pre-pandemic and pre-Brexit, and the world has changed a lot since then. I think the development meets many of the aspirations of Angus Council. We want rural jobs. We want to see businesses that will cater for tourists. We can see, if we look around, how successful such farm food restaurant businesses are. And I know of 2, one just outside St Andrews and one just outside Perth. Probably not, the one in Perth is not on a particularly good road. It's on an unlisted, an unclassified road. Both seem to be very successful businesses. As part of the Tay Cities deal, there was considerable interest in setting up an Angus food hub using public money. That didn't happen. We now have a privately funded venture that might achieve some of the same aims. Our Economic Development Department has strongly supported this venture. I think we need to be open for competition. I mean, I note the objection from the operator of Piper Dam, which seems to be hostile to any competition. Well, my understanding is that the planning process is not there to protect a particular vested interest. I would also note that there is significant public support behind this development. So turning to the reasons for refusal, PV2, PV6, PV7, 1. I would again, like the convener, refer to comments made by the applicant on pages 663 of the original report 17321. This wasn't open space, but a managed woodland development, harvested according to felling licence, and Forestry Land Scotland are agreeable to restocking at an alternative location. I think the housing to the south is protected by a strip of trees. An additional planning of trees planned by the developer will protect the area to the north. PV7 seems to refer to ancient woodland, which isn't the case here. Again, I think subjective opinions that could be the objections. I think there are some subjective opinions that could be countered by the economic development and jobs offered by this development. Objection 2, referring to PD1. In my view, development does not conflict with Piper Dam, but in my view will enhance Piper Dam both for visitors and locals. Item 3, TC2. I think the housing development for a manager could be handled by a Section 75 order in a similar way to the manager's house at Colliston Castle, recently approved by this committee. And I think the same justification would apply, that this is for key staff supporting a tourism business. Item 4, TC19, the retail element is 500 square metres, which is 20 metres by 25. So not a large scale. We're not talking about building a Gyle shopping centre here, or you know, a large development. It is a relatively modest development, a shop, a cafe and a restaurant. So the retail element is actually quite small. And I think I did note that the applicant was prepared to restrict the number of goods sold in that shop if we desired that. So it's not large scale. I think the other objections there, again, I think are subjective. Objection 5, DS3 and TC16, again, I think very much a matter of opinion, subjective matters. Objection 6, PV5, that is the protected species survey, and that has now been done with mitigation measures that the planning service are happy with. Item 7, PV15, water management. I note the applicant challenges this, but again, this could be covered by a planning condition. And finally, the item 8, DS1. Again, I would say a matter of opinion and needs to be balanced again, the economic benefits, tourism potential and jobs provided in rural Angus. So yes, convener, I am happy to uphold the appeal.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very well put. We appear to have 3 in favour and 1 against. Would that be right, Councillor Moore?
Yeah, and I would like my dissent to be recorded if it's approved.
Is it approved? Councillor Duff, Councillor King?
Yes, I'm happy to approve the appeal.
Yes, so am I. So, Paul, you want to speak?
I was just wondering if it could be made clear just what the reasons for approval are. If you could just specify what the reasons are.
Well, I think Councillor Duff went over it pretty thoroughly, plus what I read in the report, I thought was contrary to, I thought it wasn't contrary to the application. So that's the only thing we can say just now.
I mean, I'm quite happy to email my comments to Sarah if you like. I think a lot of them are they're subjective matters, and we can take differing views. Is a development appropriate or not? Is a development too large or not? I think these are, for me, subjective matters, and there isn't a right and a wrong answer. As I say, if someone was proposing to build the Gyle shopping centre here, then it would clearly be too large and inappropriate. But this development, I think, screened with trees is appropriate to the location. That's my view. And, I think I've gone through the objections, and I think a lot of them we have got answers for. I think some of them, the economic development, jobs and tourism benefits are significant, and we need to weigh these against other, subjective objections. I think that's my view.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thompson, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, convener. It's just for clarification that if the members are minded to grant this this review or uphold the review, that it would be for the reasons stated by Councillor Duff and other members of the committee this morning.
Yes, that would be right. So, is that enough for the officers? We can state that this appeal has been upheld. Then is that Mrs. Forsyth?
Yes, thank you, convener. It would just be subject to conditions to come back to a future meeting.
Yes, that would be suitable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and it's been a clear time in getting here, but we've got here, and I hope the applicants are happy with what's happened anyway. Thank you very much. That's the end of the meeting, and thank you all for turning up.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.